My name is Lisa Getzler from Lehigh University's Baker Institute for Entrepreneurship, Creativity, and Innovation. Welcome to Lehigh at NasdaqCenter. Today's guests include Nicola Corzine, Executive Director of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, and two of our Milestone makers, Ladonna Higgins of the Startup Admin and Matthew Locke of Radish. Welcome. I'd really like to start the conversation today by asking you, Nicola, to give us just a brief description of the mission of the Milestone Maker program.
In a nugget. So the mission of the Milestone Makers program was really about finding remarkably high-talented entrepreneurs that were passionate about changing the course of their business, and the course of their business being most importantly defined by an outcome of success that could be measured in a 12-week program. So we were looking for those that resonated first and foremost with the entrepreneurial mindset and all that it encompasses, and allowing them to celebrate a remarkable accomplishment in a 12-week session.
12 weeks. That is a remarkably short amount of time.
It flies. As these two will tell you, it flies.
I'm sure they will, and of course we want to hear from you. But before we get to some specific questions about your entrepreneurial pursuits, I just want to mention the idea that the university perspective on educating entrepreneurs is more about the who and the why than the what. And so I know we're very much aligned in that way, Nicola, when it comes to the Milestone Makers programs and Lehigh University's programs, which is, of course, why we've begun this partnership that's so exciting to both of us. Can you talk a little bit about what your primary reason is for boosting the entrepreneur themselves rather than the business that they're running?
Most definitely. So, for us, we say it's all about the founder. It's a founder-first mentality at the center. While the businesses that they're in are truly remarkable as standalones themselves, it is about finding that great talent within a founder so that, as we all know, this is a lifelong journey that they're on. They're not going to stop being great entrepreneurs. As I've just discovered, they're already in the midst of building other companies even as we speak. So, and that's the very nature and the passion of great entrepreneurs. They're in it for the long haul. So to build a talent base of remarkable entrepreneurs that believe this philosophically and build to support that talent and see it through the long haul is part of the magic of what Milestone Makers and this joint mindset believes fundamentally in, is you have to double down on the talent first and foremost. To get to the curiosity, the innate passion, the talent, the thirst for being coachable in those difficult moments and in the good ones too. That's what a lot of this is about.
And as you say, whether it is this venture that succeeds or the next or the one after that, these entrepreneurs will be ready for whatever comes their way.
Absolutely.
So Ladonna, let's turn to you. I think it's so interesting. Well, of course, we'll ask you to tell us a little bit about your company, the Startup Admin. Let's start there.
Yes, so the Startup Admin is a team of experienced admins working with early stage founders, helping them implement policies, procedures, and systems that will eventually help their companies scale. We do this by training admins on some very specific systems, skills that will benefit the founders. And by doing this, we support the admins once they're partnered with our clients through the duration of the growth of that company or that client's business.
So it sounds like you've been your own customer.
I have been my own customer.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I launched the Startup Admin back in 2012 after supporting a serial entrepreneur through two ventures. So being with him as his number 4, coming in and having him solely focus on product, and I focused on the operational side of the business, taught me a lot of the skills, and building that close, trusting relationship with that founder also allowed me to see the personal side of what founders go through and how an admin can truly support the entire founder through this journey of startup, entrepreneurship, and eventually acquisition.
So what was the spark for you to go from being a fabulous admin who helped a startup to starting your own company?
Yeah, that light bulb moment happened for me when I was actually sitting and talking with my CEO, and we were talking about what's next after the acquisition. And he said, if you could just teach people how to run startups the way you do, it would be a gold mine. And that was the first time that I ever thought about being an entrepreneur and starting a company that now has over 200 admins under our belt.
And that was how long ago?
That was 4 years ago.
4 years ago. And 12 weeks ago, you entered the first Milestone Makers program through the NasdaqCenter.
Correct.
And what was the milestone that you set for yourself?
So the milestone that I set was really to create visibility here in the San Francisco Bay Area. With most founders, we think about growing really quickly, as fast as you can. And what I realized through the program, identifying a smaller milestone would actually help me grow a lot faster in a much more efficient way. And so that milestone really was to onboard new clients here in the San Francisco Bay Area to increase visibility for the startup admin.
Nicola, let me ask you, is that how you envisioned the program working, the smaller milestone perhaps getting the greatest traction?
Yeah, that's a great question. The genesis for a lot of this work that we put into creating Milestone Makers as a good program option out there lie with the fact that inside of board meetings, quarterly board meetings, we're measured on sort of incremental improvements. Sometimes absent seeing the full composure of this gorgeous composition come together and realizing that that incremental movement caused such a big inflection, such a huge scale opportunity to unfold. A lot of founders look for that accountability, that support, that mentorship that can be given to them to help get that guidance and sort of, oh wow, the aha moment was really doubling down on my client base in the Bay Area so that nationwide people looked inside and said, wow, this is the winner of San Francisco, the startup market. If they are working there, then clearly Ladonna and her team are doing something magical that we want to embrace in New Orleans or New York or Detroit or any of these other potential city places for her to go.
It sounds wonderful, and we'll come back to the coaching aspect of this experience, as well as what I would imagine to be your natural proclivity to want to help all of the milestone makers in this cohort. So on that note, let's move to you, Matt. I want to hear a little bit more about you, but first tell us, what is Radish?
So what Radish is an application that makes it easy for vegetarians and vegans to find home cooking cooked by amazing people in their neighborhood.
Only vegans?
Vegetarian vegans, yes.
Vegetarians and vegans. And why did you start there, or why, or is that where you're going to stay?
It really depends on how it goes. What we found when we were doing a lot of our testing was that vegetarians and vegans were often last menu items at restaurants, and vegetarian and vegan cooks were often left out of the fold because there's a lot of them that love cooking but can't figure out what to do next with it. And we wanted to create a system that would connect the people that had these interesting meals that they were cooking to the people that were looking for them. And imagine if you knew who was cooking what in your neighborhood to the taste preference that you were looking for. We wanted to figure out how to bridge that relationship.
And when you say who was cooking, do you mean restaurant owners or do you mean individual cooks in their own homes?
It would be individual cooks in their own homes cooking X amount of meals per week.
So you are pairing cooks in their own homes with people who are looking to eat what they might be cooking in a similar way that Uber is pairing people with their own cars who are looking for rides to a particular place.
That is correct.
And the deal is done through Radish.
That's correct.
And is that an app?
Yeah, it would be a location-based mobile app that, imagine if you're walking down your street and wondering, oh, I wonder who's cooking today. Open up the Radish app, and then you could see who's cooking what and just buy directly from them.
So have you encountered many issues related to regulatory problems or FDA regulations?
Yeah, at the current moment, we're working within a private network, so we are essentially just connecting the cooks to the users and just creating that bridge, and we're just more like an in-between marketing platform at the moment rather than a facilitation platform.
And is that your starting point, or is that where you intend to stay?
It just depends on how the market grows. We want to really focus on organic growth, and we don't want to force the flow too much, but it really just depends on what we can do to empower our cooks and our user base.
So what was your milestone?
Our milestone was to get our first launch product into the market. We did a lot of testing in the last year within a private network, but what we found was we were struggling to keep up with it just because the demand was high and we just didn't have the technological capabilities to facilitate the relationships. So what we wanted to do was step back a little bit, not burn all of our bridges, and focus really on creating a product that would benefit the user base. And so for the last 12 weeks, we've been focusing on that core problem that we were trying to solve and building a technology solution to solve that problem.
And how'd you do?
We did very well. We are essentially close to launch. Our product will be ready next week, and we're pushing for the App Store right now, so we're pretty excited.
Congratulations. Yeah. Nicola, I'd like to go back to the idea of the coaching and mentorship that goes into this Milestone Makers program. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between a coach and a mentor.
So that is a very distinct definition that I think these two have experienced quite tremendously over the last 12 weeks. So we would lead with saying that mentors are remarkable domain experts. They can help you accomplish this big audacious goal because they've been there, done that before. They've all either gotten that expertise from building companies from the ground up, or they're investors that have sort of seen it from the scale perspective and can address some of the things like capital structures and scale and growth opportunities. On the flip side, a business coach is unbiased in very nature. So they are not meant to sort of stand there and say, we know because we've been there before. They're much more sort of the mirror, as Selena likes to say, of holding it up and saying, we want you to make sure that you're staying true to the cause. You are giving up sleep. You are giving up pay. You are giving up all kinds of things for this crazy journey that you're on called entrepreneurship. And we're going to assume that you're doing that for a really good reason. And that's because you're drawn to doing this in ways that nothing else can connect you with. So to that end, the business coach says, are you getting all that you need to be able to stay the course? Again, going back to that mindset of this is a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So how do we ensure their stability, their safety in this process so that they can maximize their learnings and feel really great at the end of each day?
I love that. It's a wonderful model. It's so important, and in fact, it's so underutilized. In our world of educating young people at the university level, this is something we pay attention to. This is something students are not naturally drawn to, and yet it's certainly our responsibility. To do this for entrepreneurs is absolutely incredibly important to keep the process going. So Ladonna, back to you, and the company that you started supports entrepreneurs. I can imagine that you would have wanted to help every single one of the ones in your cohort.
Of course.
And I'm curious to know, how did you stop yourself from doing that?
Well, actually, I had quite a few reach out to me, and we had some initial discussions, some consultations. We had one actually sign on to TSA, which was amazing. I would say the majority of the cohort, they see the need.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just about where you fill the gap for them and what's important to them at that time. But ultimately, every founder is going to want support, and just understanding how to utilize that support and when to utilize the support is really the decision-making factor. And so what the startup admin tries to do is help founders understand you can work with an admin as little as you need or as much as you need, because there's so much flexibility in the partnership and in our business model altogether. We don't lock founders into 20 hours, 30 hours per week or per month. It's really when you need them and how you need them.
Well, that must be a business model that is difficult to predict.
Yes.
And so I would imagine you're going to be working on that for some time in the future. But it sounds like you're moving forward in a very productive way.
Yes.
You're both to be congratulated. This is a wonderful accomplishment to have gotten as far as you have in your businesses, to have completed the 12-week Milestone Makers program. Nicola, I'd like to come back to you and hear a little bit more about how your vision has been met or not, what you're looking forward to in the next cohort of Milestone Makers that I understand will start as soon as these folks are escorted out the door.
So I would say so many wonderful takeaways from this, not least of which is just the remarkable opportunity to have worked with so many talented entrepreneurs in the program, and the mentors and the coaches and the faculty that gave so generously of their time, and our amazing interns that, of course, were created through this great partnership that we have here too. It takes a village. I know that is used so often, but it really does, I think, in the case of Milestone Makers. And so I'm continually humbled by how much people want to pay it forward based on successes and based on how much others have done for them in the past too. And that is philosophically what Milestone Makers has created, a system where great talent is rewarded for being just that, great talent. And that we believe fundamentally in the power of all the work that you're doing and all that you can become, and allow you in turn to give back to that next cohort when we onboard them on Wednesday. So the really exciting part tomorrow is that we'll recognize and truly celebrate the graduation of 100% of our Milestone Makers, which is not off the record what I would have predicted. But I think it speaks volumes just to the passion and the talents and the grit and the resilience and all these attributes that we look to find in this first cohort. And then we'll have literally in the audience the next cohort present. So they'll see the accomplishments of those that have worked so hard for so long to be celebrated on that stage, and have a attempt to sort of connect with you in that moment, and then have you hopefully coach them through this next 12-week period too.
Well, you are all to be congratulated. I couldn't be more excited for you. I couldn't be more excited to be partnering with this group to do the same for students from our university, from other universities across the country. We'll see where this partnership leads us.
It's going to be remarkable.
And that's all the time we have for now. We will continue this conversation in the future. I'd like to thank our panelists, Nicola Corzine of the NasDaq Entrepreneurial Center, and Milestone Makers Ladonna Higgins and Matthew Locke. For Lehigh at NasDaq Center, I'm Lisa Getzler. Thank you for joining us.